I think the most important pivot was I like I told you in the beginning, I was a photographer. That was what I went to school for. That's what I was. And then I was a graphic designer. And so I was put in this box of I was a creative person, or people would call me, oh, you're artsy and you're creative. And I never even imagined that I had the sort of that part of my brain that was like techie, that was like into technology or anything like that. I was always the creative person or the artsy one. And there was a time and I was working in a marketing department as a graphic designer, and someone came in and they were frantic and they said that someone quit who was doing our intranet, like the back end of their website. Does anyone in here know how to code? And me being me, always saying yes to everything, I was like, sure, I've dabbled. I'm sure I can figure it out. And so I raised my hand and I started figuring it out. He would give me his SQL files and I would have to make it pretty, but like on the back end. And so I started YouTubing and asking people that I knew who knew about code. And I taught myself enough to be dangerous with code. And that unlocked this like technical piece of my brain where I was so happy while I was coding in this marketing department. And I could
Mhm.
only allot 20% of my time to coding because I had to do the rest graphic design. And so I called one of my girlfriends at the time who was an HR director at a startup company. And I said, what do I need to do to just be surrounded by this like, techies and people who are like at the cutting edge? And I don't know where to start. I don't think I'm very techie. I just know that I learned how to code and I'm really excited about it. And she said, apply to a startup company as like a support representative and work your way up. And you can go anywhere once you're in a startup company because there's just so many opportunities as they're growing to grow with them. And I made that pivot to being this sort of I applied for a support representative role and I went into startup, like kind of the startup world, SaaS specifically, so software as a service, which is like techie. And I just wanted to be surrounded by these technical people and learn everything there was to know about engineering and all the things.